Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today we are here with Steve-O. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Today, I just want to start this one and premise it because I want to talk about you before we go into the story. But just so everyone knows what they're in for, the story today is about how Steven climbed Everest, and he did it with his friend Matt. And
yeah, so there was Matt and then Scott Doolan.
Yep. So Scott Doolan was the main, who the story is based around. And you did it. He was the first paraplegic to sort of climb Everest.
Yeah, correct. So he was the first paraplegic to climb up to Everest Base Camp with minimal assistance.
Insane. So that's what we're going to talk about today, guys. But before we do that, we just want to
Strip it back. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you from?
From the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Born and bred, raised. Been pretty much living here for my whole life.
Yeah.
I did spend a year over in America, and I worked for Walt Disney World over there. It was sort of like my chance to take a gap year in a way.
Yeah.
So take it back again. I was at film school, studied here at Bond University, and whilst I was there, they send out like careers emails. Like every week they give you an update of like what's going on in the industry. There's this like social networking event happening. These recruiters are in town, and this one particular week I actually opened up the email and had a look at it, and I'm like, oh, Disney. That sort of, that like got my interest, and then I was like, okay, this looks pretty interesting. Let's go to the the information night that they had going on, and went along to that, and I was like, yeah, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Happy days.
So from the Gold Coast, and then I got into filmmaking and photography back when I was 14, 15. Used to BMX a lot.
Yep.
And was like, I want to be able to capture like us doing, sick tricks and shit like that over the jumps. And I was like, okay, obviously there's photography, and that's where it started.
That's sick. So from photography to beginning this journey to obviously where he's climbed Everest, how did sort of the initial idea come about?
So I'll probably have to give a shout out to my little sister Nicole for getting me onto this epic adventure, if you want to say. So through her company that she worked for, Multiplex, they ran like a boot camp, like boot camp training, fitness sort of thing, and she was like egging me on, like, come on, you got to start training, blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, nah, she'll be right. I'll get around to it eventually. And then eventually started going, and Apex Gen. So these guys here, shout out Apex Gen. You'll be able to find them on Instagram.
They're much bigger than us. They don't need a shout out from us.
They were running the boot camps, and obviously got started talking to the instructor, Drew, there, and talking about my background. And back then they were just starting out, and they were looking for content to like launch themselves on Instagram and whatnot. So I was like, look, obviously I'm a photographer, I'm more than happy to give you guys a hand. And then that's how it started. And then I sort of knew about Scotty whilst I was starting to get to know Drew and the team at Apex Gen, and knew what they were trying to do with Scott. And then I get a call from Matt, probably maybe like 3 or 4 months into me training there, and he was like, look, we're thinking about doing this thing. I was like, okay, like, what's this thing? He's like, we want to take Scotty up to Everest Base Camp. I'm like, you want to what? You want to do what? He's like, yeah, and I want you to come. And I was like, all right, cool. And I was like, what do you like? What do you want to achieve out of this? And he was like, obviously, I want you to be there and capture it. And I was like, well, this is a perfect opportunity to make a documentary. So obviously went there, shot a documentary with, I gotta make sure I staying within the range of the mic. Went over there with Nigel. So there was 2 videographers, myself and Nigel, and we went over there with Matt, Scotty, the team at Blue Dragon Adventures, and obviously went to base camp.
mean, you told that story pretty quick. we want to strip it back.
Okay. Get to the core.
Yeah. So you've decided that you want to go to Everest.
Mm-hmm.
From there, how do you go from making the decision to then being like, okay, I've got to prepare for Everest. I've got to, I've got to get fit. I've got to get all my gear ready.
How do you prepare for it, like the training wise?
So training wise for me, what I did is HIIT style sort of training, so high intensity interval training. Did a lot of that, and then I also did a lot of long distance running. So I was doing minimum 5 to 10K runs, probably every 2-3 days.
Crazy.
It got to a point where I was doing 10Ks in about 2 hours, which I think that's right. About 3 to 4 minutes a K. No,
maybe an hour.
I can't math. Yeah, maybe an hour actually.
Yeah, probably an hour.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 60 minutes an hour. Yeah. Math was my forte. No longer is. Yeah, so a lot of high intensity, long distance running, only because with the altitude, there's a lack of oxygen, so your body has to work harder to. I don't know the true medical terms, but your body has to work harder to keep your muscles going essentially.
Yeah.
And obviously your heart's working a lot harder. So I was doing a lot of that sort of training. I know Matt and Scotty, they were doing a similar style training, but they also did get into altitude gyms. To obviously similar. What's the word?
Acclimatise.
That's it. Yeah. Acclimatise and get their body somewhat used to being at an altitude or with lack of oxygen. So that was obviously I stayed in contact with Matt throughout the whole process to make sure I was being accountable to him, because obviously the trek isn't a walk in the park.
Yeah, he doesn't want to carry no dead weight.
No, he doesn't. No.
So how many of yous were there?
So there was Scott Doolan,
the
guy in the wheelchair. There was Matt Laycock, the director and owner of Ep.10. Then there was Nigel, my second videographer or cinematographer. Then there was Dawa. He was our lead Sherpa and guide. And then there was Justin. He was part of Blue Dragon Adventures. So Dawa and Justin go back a number of years. Long story short, Justin pretty much adopted Dawa. Dawa is a local from Jaziling. I think that's how I say it.
We'll roll with it.
Yeah, we'll just roll with it.
No one's questioning.
So they started the adventure company together, and then there was four porters with Scott at all times, and then there was another 4 carrying our personal bags. So we had, what's that, 8, about a crew of 12, 13 of us.
Yeah.
With that said, I was carrying my entire equipment on my back the whole way, and so was Nigel. So we had, respectively, probably about 15, pushing sometimes up to 20 kilo bags on our back.
On top of
Yeah, I was going to say, how much would that weigh?
Yeah.
That's insane. So for Scott, obviously he's doing it on his arms. What was how did he go up up the mountain? Was he most of the time on his arms, or was how did you go about that?
So with Scott and his journey up, whatever sections he could wheel in his chair, he did.
Cool.
Yeah, so there were sections along the trek where it was relatively flat. Obviously, it was a bit rocky.
Yeah.
But there was quite a few long sections where he could wheel. If he wasn't in the chair and we're going upstairs, for example, or like rocky stairs, he would be on his arms doing like a wheelbarrow technique. So he would be on his arms, and then Matt would grab his legs and wheelbarrow him along the way.
Yeah, we're watching the videos this past week when you were coming in, and it's pretty crazy, eh?
Yeah.
It's like
Scott's arms are jacked.
Oh yeah,
He's huge, man.
both Scotty and Matt are jacked. Like I'm standing next to these boys, and I'm like a fucking twig. You know what I mean?
Feel a little shit about yourself. You're like, fuck.
Yeah. But with that said, though, that was probably their greatest weakness
Like,
in doing the trek, because they're obviously bigger frame.
Yeah.
Body has to work harder to get the oxygen around to the muscles. So, yes, I'm smaller, but
probably more suited to your body type.
correct. Yeah. Like, for example, you look at long distance marathon runners.
They're all, thin.
Yeah.
Rakes.
Yeah.
Side note, did you see
Ethiopians.
the world record was broken? Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Sub 2 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
insane.
Insane. Yeah, so obviously those boys, they've been doing a lot of gym work for a number of years.
Yeah.
And this sort of style of journey, especially for Scott, the amount of pressure that's on his upper body was absolutely insane. So he did himself a lot of, again, obviously a lot of strength work in the gym, but him and Matt were out in the Blue Mountains and mountains around Newcastle, because that's where they're based out of. They were going out and doing hikes just to get Scotty's body used to being on his arms for
So long, yeah.
so long. And that took a toll on, obviously, Scott's body. The whole trip took a toll on everyone's body, but Scotty especially. Because it was hard. Like, I think he went through about 6 or 7 sets of gloves in the trek.
So, yeah, it's insane because we think about it, sort of the challenge for an able-bodied person, but for Scott to do it on his arms.
What did we do a few years ago?
What do you mean?
All us boys up that mountain.
Oh,
And that's small. It took like, what was it?
Mount Warning.
Yeah.
You know the top. Have you been to Mount Warning?
Yeah.
Is it like 2 hours?
Yeah, it's like a 2-hour walk.
Yeah, and we're like, fuck.
Just drenched at the top
Yeah.
in sweat.
Yeah.
How long did it take?
Oh, now you test my memory. It took, I think, for an average able-bodied
Yeah.
team. Oh God, I have to edit this part. I think it was. I should have brought my diary that I wrote. I think it was 7 or 8 days to get up.
For a able body.
Yeah, and we did it in that time as well.
Oh, did you?
That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Now, with that said, though, we obviously did have one acclimatization day, which I'll explain down the track.
Yeah.
And we also did have a number of redundancy days in place. So
what does that mean?
redundancy days.
Redundancy day, yeah.
So if, like, for example, if I'm sick or Scott isn't able to progress anymore, we'd obviously take the day off and rest.
Okay.
So we had had a number of those days scheduled in, just in case if shit does hit the fan. We've got those backup days. So
Yep.
we were scheduled to be on the mountain for almost 2.5 weeks. But obviously we were only there for about 10 days for myself. Average amount of time, which I think off the top of my head was about 7 to 8 days.
Yeah.
To get up.
So what elevation do you begin with, and how high is base camp to?
So the journey up to Mount Everest actually starts at Kathmandu.
Yep.
That's obviously where you fly into, and that's where you tend to get most of your last minute supplies that you may need. Like, we picked up like stupid shit like baby wipes, just to give ourselves a shower each night. Each night. Because sometimes you didn't have a facility to have a shower, so you just wipe yourself down before you go to sleep. So that's where the journey starts, and then from Kathmandu you jump onto a light aircraft and fly into Lukla.
Yeah.
Is that the one where it's like just a cliff and then... Oh, that's so sketchy. We should edit a clip in of that somehow.
I'll give you the footage. But to give you guys an idea, it's the 200-meter runway on a side of a mountain. And
that's so hectic.
Yeah, Lukla is actually, and it's probably good that we brought this up, Lukla is one of the world's scariest airports and most dangerous. We met a helicopter pilot when we were over there, and she does a lot of flying in and out of the Everest region. And just recently she flew into Lukla to, I think, refuel, get supplies, and then I think she was going back up the the mountain to drop these supplies off to the villages, because the villages, they get their supplies either by the back of not camels, donkeys or yaks, or they get helicoptered in. And she was at Lukla Airport, and she landed the chopper, went inside to get a helicopter, and a light aircraft was taking off to go back to Kathmandu, skidded off the runway and just missed her helicopter, and hit another one. I think killed about 4 people.
That's insane.
This runway, it's like literally, it's like this is the runway, and there's like no fence between the aircraft runway and where the helicopter pads are, so it's just all open, and you can see the security camera footage of these guys just getting mowed down by an aircraft.
Oh, that's so sad.
But yeah, it's sad, but
Sketchy, eh?
yeah, sketchy and quite scary. Like when you think about it, you're in a little piece of metal, a little metal tube, and there's about I think 10 or 12 of you in it, and I actually I got a bit of footage. I was like sort of like leaning out in the aisle trying to get like a shot through, because you can see right through to the pilot's cockpit in like the runway. You can sort of just see the runway, and you just like coming down. It's like, and would you hit like it's a hard landing. As soon as you land, they have to hit the brakes and reverse thrust, because you've only got about 150 meters, and then there's a fucking like brick wall, and a couple of times aircraft have ran into that as well because they haven't pulled up in time. Yeah, so it's super sketch. Anyway, so you fly into there, sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows everywhere. You fly into there, and you're at an altitude. To give you an idea, you're at an altitude higher than Mount Kosciuszko here, which is the highest mountain in Australia. So off the top of my head, I think that's about 1,100 or 1,200 meters. And I noticed it straight away when we were just waiting there for our bags, because we caught a flight and then our bags came in on another aircraft. When you were just sitting there, you can already feel like just that little bit harder it is to breathe.
Yeah.
And that's just the start.
We hadn't even started walking.
Yeah.
Flew into Lukla, and then the first day was, off the top of my head, about a 7 or 8K hike. So a better part of the day, only because obviously myself and Nigel were getting used to working with each other. Matt and Scott were getting used to, again, working at that altitude and what they had to do. Just the whole team just getting used to each other.
Yeah.
And then got into I can't remember where we got into the first day, and then rested for the night and kept on going.
So from where you started to base camp, how far is that? Not in like elevation, but in like kilometers, say.
In distance, it's about 50 to 55 kilometers.
I didn't think it'd be that. That's insane.
Yep. Yeah, 50 to 55.
So it's just such a like gradual sort of rise.
No,
it's not.
No, far from it.
I'm way off.
You're way off. So the first day, at Lukla, you sort of like start up here, and then you sort of like dip down and then come up. Yep. So you're always doing this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Always doing this, either flat and then going up, coming back down, and then like zigzagging. It's the terrain is very varied.
Yep.
It's not flat whatsoever.
Can you tell us what an average day looked like? Like what, like for eating?
Mm-hmm.
Like how long would you like rest for? How long would you obviously walk for?
So
to start off in the morning, obviously you wake up, have breakfast. I hope.
Typical day, we'd get up at say like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Have breakfast, and then start getting ready, and then we'd be out on the trail. And then like some days we do a full 8 to 9 kilometer day, or we just do like a short day.
Yeah.
Again, like I didn't think the trek was so commercialized in that. I thought we were going to go there and like we'd have to carry our own tent, our own sleeping bag, our own everything. But there's actually villages along the way that you can like sort of like rent a room or a cabin. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we'd obviously rent a number of rooms. Nigel and I would share one, Matt and Scotty would share one, and then Dara and Justin would share a room. So there was 3 rooms between us. You just go to these villages, and you can either pre-book if it's really busy, or you just literally rock up and go, hey, can we have 3 rooms?
Yeah.
Sometimes those rooms are just 2 single beds. Sometimes they're a little bit more extravagant in that you could have a bathroom and running water, but for the better part, it was just the room and beds.
It's crazy.
Now what was the question again?
It's like an average.
Oh, average day, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, get up, have brekkie, get on the road, and then again, whilst you're on the trails, you'd either have like little snacks that you would have in your backpack, or you would stop by in one of these little villages and sit down and have a good meal.
Yeah.
And then get back into it and keep on walking. And then stop at night wherever we can get to, and then obviously have dinner, play. I can't remember the bloody card game we played, but we just would play it religiously, like game after game after game after game after game. It was a good game.
Was it like a local game, or was it?
I can't remember what it was. Was it Kings and Arseholes?
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that one. You know that one?
No, I don't.
But yeah, we'd just sit there playing cards and just talking smack. Sometimes we would go through the footage and review it.
Yeah.
The thing with me, obviously being a filmmaker, is I wanted to try and get these like little vox pops from Scotty. Now, Scotty, absolutely love you, man, but it was super difficult to get anything out of him because he's just so down to earth. He's just so humble.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's not like one of those guys that are like, oh, I'm disabled. Like, give me sympathy. He's like, yeah, I'm disabled.
I'm climbing Everest, bitch.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. But yeah, we'd always try and sit down with Scotty and get like a quick little, like almost a casual interview, just to help drive the story for the film.
Yep.
So we'd obviously attempt that, and obviously in most cases it didn't work, but it is what it is. And then we just pretty much just relax for the rest of the night, and then obviously go into bed, sleep, and then rinse and repeat.
See, like, I'm thinking about this. How much does it cost to go to Everest? Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, the whole time, I'm like, oh, you flew over there. You got all this gear with you. All these guys, like, helping you out. Is it really expensive?
Full disclosure, the deal that Matt and I had was he'd pay for all my expenses and I'd shoot the documentary.
That's hectic, but
That's a pretty good deal.
So, that was the deal that we had. But, obviously, to get over there, you got your airfares. So we flew here. I flew down to Sydney, met up with the boys there again because we're from Newcastle. So we all met at Sydney, stayed there for the day, and then we all flew to Singapore, and then Singapore to Kathmandu, Nepal. And then obviously the flight from Nepal to Lukla, and then obviously all that return. Now, to give you an idea, pricing-wise, off the top of my head to summit, to go to the absolute summit, the absolute peak of Everest, is about 40 to 55K US. To get to base camp, I think it was about $5 grand US. So it's obviously
per person.
Per person, yeah. Now, with that said, though, it depends on obviously how well you want to sleep, how much food you want to eat, where you want to stay. Do you want a guide? Do you want a porter? Because obviously you can literally pick up a map from Kathmandu and do the trek yourself, unassisted, unguided. Not that I would suggest doing that.
Yeah,
but
this dodgy ass.
Yeah. Because, side note, I almost did get lost because the boys went ahead and I know the boys went ahead and I just got like a long wide shot from behind them, but they took a turn and went like up the ridge that way, but I just kept on going straight, and then I'm like looking out in the distance, I'm like, where are the boys? Like I can't see the team. And I was like, oh shit! Like so yeah, you've obviously got the option to do it yourself, but me personally, I would highly suggest at least taking a guide, whether it's a Sherpa or just a porter, just someone who is familiar with the trek. Having Dawa in our team, he was just a wealth of knowledge. Like just looking after us, especially for Nigel and I. Like I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but we were putting our bodies under extreme duress carrying that amount of weight. And he even said it himself. He's like, I've never seen any Westerners do this trek with that amount of weight on your back. Because typically, like I said before, you give your big bags to the porter, which are people just carry stuff up the mountain.
Yep.
You just give your big bag to them, and then you just have like a little day pack that would have like snacks and like a rain jacket if it would start raining, or just anything that any items that you'll require during the day. So yeah, back to the costing sort of thing. Yeah, so about $5,000 to $6,000 Australian to get up there, and it's like any trek. It just depends how well you want to eat. Any unexpected costings that will come up. Obviously insurances as well. Obviously Scott being a paraplegic, it was pretty hard for the boys to get insurance for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And obviously the nature of the trek as well. It was obviously easy for the rest of us, but for Scotty it was a little bit harder. Thankfully we went through a good broker and got it, and we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, about $5,000 to $6,000 to answer your question.
Insane.
It's obviously very mentally draining, yeah?
Yes. Physically and mentally.
Yeah.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
To date.
Full stop, mic drop. Yeah. Very, very. Only because
What was the most sort of challenging part of it?
the hardest day.
Tell us your hardest day.
My hardest day was the day we were going up to base camp. So we were up probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, and started our way up to the Gorek Shep, I think that's how I say it, which is the last village before base camp.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like the gateway as such to base camp, and then Kalapatar, and then obviously the summit. We got up really early because we were a little bit further down the mountain. Get there, have like a cup of tea, get warm again. Actually, let's bring it back. We got up. It was about -10 Celsius. So already it's fucking freezing. I had obviously jocks, thermals on, then long pants, and then I had my outer jacket and pants on. Like 3 layers of socks because my feet were like frozen.
Yeah.
To the point where I thought I was getting frostbite because I couldn't feel my toes. So like as we were walking along, like I'm stamping my feet, like trying to get blood flow back in. Like whenever we'd stop, I'd be fucking kicking rocks trying to get any feeling back in. I was really worried. Ended up getting my you can buy like little hand warmer things to pop in your gloves to keep your hands warm. I ended up shoving them down in my socks to just again try and get my feet warm.
Yeah.
And then side note, the 2 to 3 days prior to that, I wasn't 100% myself. I got sick. So already I wasn't like...
Was that from like altitude sickness?
Yeah, altitude sickness.
What's that feel like?
Shit.
But like, is it like you're vomiting or nausea?
Yeah, nausea, screaming headaches.
Okay.
Each morning you'd be waking up with a screamer of a headache.
Oh, that's
only because of the medication we were all taking, Diamox. So what Diamox did was, I can't exactly remember what it did, but it would help with the altitude.
Yep.
But the side thing of that is it makes you severely hydrated. So you're drinking 4 to 5 liters of water a day, just trying to keep the fluids up.
Yep.
And pissing like a racehorse
Yeah.
to get all that water out. So yeah, I was already sick beforehand. Base camp day, did the trek. I think it was about 10 kilometers that we got up to base camp. Got up to base camp and then did another 10 kilometers further back. At this point, this was I think one of the only times I gave my bag to Dawa because I was physically exhausted. I was shaking. Was just dropping back behind Dara and Nigel because I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to stop. I just wanted to stop and sit down and take a break, but I just had to keep on going.
It's pretty scary to sort of hit that point up so far too.
Yeah.
Almost.
What do you do?
And then got back to the village that we were stopping for the night, and was just like super run down. Didn't have an appetite. Like you lose your appetite on the mountain as is, but I didn't feel like eating at all. Didn't literally. I just wanted to crawl into bed, which I obviously did. And I was shaking severely. Like I thought, like I don't know what's going on here. Like why am I shaking? Me thinking, okay, my body's shaking because I'm cold, but I was still wearing all my gear, still wearing my thermals. I was in a sleeping bag, in bed, and then had a doona over me. So I was like snug as a bug in a rug, but I was still like shaking to shit. And then obviously I got Dara in. I said, look, man, this is what's happening. This is what I'm feeling. He's like, man, you're just physically exhausted. You like just pushed yourself like 120%. You just your body's shutting down.
Yeah.
So yeah, that by far was the hardest day for sure.
Was this so? Like you mentioned, like obviously the risk of like being in such a high altitude. Was this the first time that you and everyone on the team had gone on an expedition like this, where you have like climbed so far, gone so high? Is this the first time?
Yeah, we've pretty much all pushed our bodies to the limit. Yeah.
See, it's just
Physically,
crazy you
mentally.
started with Everest.
Yeah, I know.
Don't even build your way up.
yeah, just straight off the bat, 100%. But yeah, back to the mental part. Obviously, you got the physical side of things. Obviously, the trek is 100 kilometers in total. You know, gaining altitude in like 5,000 meters odd. Physically, yeah, it's demanding. But for me and Nigel, mentally, like we've obviously got to do the trek, but we've also got to shoot a documentary at the same time.
Essentially work at the same time.
So just trying to juggle two things at once. So, it was hard. Like there's no if buts maybes. Like it was hard, and trying to think how's this going to be edited together? What shots do I need for the editor? Pretty much, what can I do now that sets up the film for the editor? That was the hardest thing for us. Just constantly thinking.
Can imagine. Yeah. So like you mentioned, you got to that point physically, and that was obviously from you carrying all your gear and being exhausted. Did Scott experience anything like that?
So Scott, we all got altitude sickness.
Yep.
All got the runs. We all got the shits. All had screaming headaches. Scotty, obviously, his hands were just red raw. His shoulders and arms were, obviously heavily sore. So he was getting massaged by Justin, who's I can't remember the technical term, like a remedial massage. Like he gave the best massages, just to help relax your body. He was massaging Scotty pretty much every day to keep him going. It took a toll on all of us. Like there's not much of me, as you guys can see. But to give you an idea, I lost about 5 to 6 kilo when I was over there.
Insane.
But it's extremely hard on the body.
Just
if you haven't figured that out.
It's kind of like just constant gym.
It's just
imagine
your arms all day.
Yeah, just sitting there doing like bench press for hours upon.
Bench press, pull ups, battle ropes. Anything upper body. He's a fucking machine at.
The reason I asked about mental, I was just wanting to know, was there like a bit of banter along the way? Yeah.
Was there banter?
Like because it's so mentally draining. But there was banter.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, okay. So it wasn't just like a serious.
No.
Oh, that's good.
Far from it.
That's good then.
That's why he couldn't get any of those clips he wanted.
No. No. Poor what's the editor's name? I just had a mind blank. No, he's the other videographer. Barter was the editor. Poor Barter trying to sift through all the footage of Nigel and I talking smack and
cut.
Yeah, pretty much. Matt and Scotty like talking shit, and I think actually in the cuts that I've seen, you can actually hear a bit of that banter between Matt and Scott.
Yeah.
And also with Dara as well, he sort of got wind of it and he was getting into it as well. Obviously Nigel and I, we tried to limit the amount because it's nothing worse than you operating camera and then you hear us like talking behind it.
You just hear the nose laugh like.
Yeah, hear the little giggles and whatnot. And that was probably the other thing as well. Like I said, just doing the trek and then shooting at the same time. It's like you're trying to. I didn't have a tripod. Like it was all handheld. Well, sorry, I lied. I did have a tripod there, but I wasn't using it whilst we were trekking. I only used it when we were like sitting down doing an interview. So everything was handheld, and some of the shots I was using an extremely long lens to get close to them if I was either really far ahead of them or really behind, like from a distance behind them. And trying to hold a camera steady whilst you're like, that's probably what it sounded like to give you guys. It was like, like you were taking long, deep breaths.
Yeah.
Like, to give you an idea how hard it was to breathe at base camp, it was like, you just ran a 10-kilometer run or 5-kilometer run and you're laying flat on the ground and someone's sitting on your chest and you're trying to breathe. That's how hard it was to breathe. Like you were taking long, deep breaths, but it's like, is any oxygen actually getting into me? Like, because it just doesn't feel like it. And like you walk up a flight of stairs and it would sound like you've just done a 5-kilometer run. Again, you're like, it was.
Yeah.
When you got back, were you just fit as?
See, that was surprising, and it's actually funny that you mentioned that. I was playing Oz Tag beforehand, again, as a bit of my training, like continuous short, sharp bursts, like long distance games. Long distance games, not really. You know what I mean? Like you're on your feet and you're running the whole time. I thought I would come back and absolutely run rings around everyone, but that wasn't the case because obviously with OzTag, you're doing short, hard runs, similar to like rugby league and union, right? You're doing short, sharp, hard runs, and then you just jog around the paddock sort of thing. Whereas with the trek, I was only walking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought my body being at that altitude would be able to what's the word?
Just naturally.
Yeah, you would naturally just be able to keep going and going and going and going. But no, to answer your question, no, I was probably even worse off.
Yeah, we lost 5-6 kilos too, didn't you?
Yeah, and that as well. And it took me probably about 3 weeks to get my appetite back as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Were you just fully everyone's
exhausted.
Drained when they got back?
Yeah, when okay, so we all got up to base camp. And from there, Matt and Scott actually got airlifted out by helicopter from base camp. And then it was just Dawa, Nigel, and myself to walk back. Now, the reason why Scotty got airlifted out was because he ended up having a minor chest infection. And then he also broke his tailbone. But,
Jesus.
How did he do that?
He couldn't feel it because it was below his injury. But because obviously being a paraplegic, he didn't have any muscles in his glutes, or he pretty much doesn't have an ass. So there was no cushion as such. So unfortunately, when Scotty was getting placed down, he was getting placed down on rocks and hard surfaces. So do that 20 times a day by 7-8 days, like it's hard on his body. And he ended up breaking his tailbone. Justin had a major chest infection. And then Matt was, I think he ended up having a little bit of an infection as well, but he mainly got airlifted out just to help Scott. Because in Kathmandu, there's not really much. It's not like here where there's disabled ramps everywhere. For people in wheelchairs, it's easily accessible. Over there, disabled people in wheelchairs are almost like frowned upon. Like, what's wrong with you, sort of thing.
Okay. That kind of alludes to. I was going to ask you what's Nepal like, the culture and the people.
People absolutely lovely.
Yep.
Culture, obviously, Hindu background.
Yep.
From memory. A lot of mosques, Buddhists, monks. I think I'm getting my religions mixed around, but
that's all right.
It is what it is. People lovely, food absolutely amazing, cheap as well. But it was sort of interesting when we were like in and around Kathmandu, and we'd be walking through like the major street markets, and everyone would just be literally just like stopping and staring at Scott.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of sad in a way, because it's almost like these people looking at him as like, okay, here's a guy in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Like, what is he doing here? Like,
Yeah.
I think in the time that we were there, we only saw 2 other people in wheelchairs.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, literally, you just see people just stop and they become like a clown at a fair. They just literally just like look at him.
Really?
Mm.
Wow.
Different cultures, hey, just sort of everyone's.
Yeah. And it was actually the same thing with the kids. And we got obviously a number of shots of it for the documentary, like the kids up in the mountain. Like we'd be rolling by, and again they would just be like staring in amazement and just
Yeah,
like,
I can imagine the kids know no better. Yeah.
like they've only seen able-bodied people do this.
to be
Yeah, that's
fair.
right.
They're
And
like, you'd probably stop and stare if you're like on Everest and you're like,
Yeah.
like he's just walking on his arms up this friggin' mountain.
Yeah.
I'd probably stop and stare too.
Yeah. And we obviously got stopped a number of times from like other trekkers and obviously asking like,
What's going on?
Yeah.
what's going on, what's the purpose, and we obviously explain to them what we're trying to achieve or what Scotty's trying to achieve, and they're like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
Well, it's such an inspiring story. Like, why did like obviously can't really speak for Scott as much, but do you know sort of what inspired him to do it?
So how this all came about, I'll link this back to Apex Gen, and probably the biggest reason that attracted me to Matt and the boys at Apex Gen. So obviously Apex Gen, they have fitness clothing for men and women. But what really attracted me to them was they weren't just another, Instagram fitness brand. Obviously there's metric shit ton out there.
Heaps now.
But what was different about these boys and what they were trying to achieve is they were trying to put a message back into the community, and it's actually their like slogan or their motto, like rise above doubt, and they do expeditions like what we just did with Everest.
Yep.
To just prove to anyone that you can rise above anything if you put your mind to it.
Can achieve what you want.
It's a pretty big statement to climb Everest, the way that, especially Scott.
Yes. And originally Scott said no.
Really?
Oh, so it wasn't Scott's idea.
No, this was not Scott's idea
So
whatsoever.
was this Matt's idea?
This was Matt's idea.
How
Matt
do
and
you
the boys.
talk someone into doing this?
Yeah,
You couldn't
that's
talk
something-
me into doing it.
Yeah.
Rise above doubt, brother.
Yeah. So originally, like Scott's like, no way in hell am I doing that. And then, obviously Matt just kept on, pushing him and asking him to do it. And then, Scott obviously sat down and obviously had a chat with his parents and whatnot. And then he was like, no, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
And because obviously Scott's story is amazing and what he's being able to achieve so far, but I think what his end goal is to become a keynote and motivational speaker.
Yeah.
So obviously having this journey under his belt and the documentary as well is a great calling card for him and being him to able to share his story.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably the biggest reason why I got linked up with these boys, because they're not, like I said, they're just not another Instagram fitness lab.
They actually want to make a change.
Yeah, they want to make a change. They want to make a difference. They're not just there to, the typical like product money exchange. There's underlying meaning as to what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Well, you sent us the video on the Apex Gen website before, it must have been before they went, and they were donating all the sales to this journey. So, that's obviously not about money. When it's not good business to donate all your money to climb Everest.
No. And obviously we, Matt obviously did that. Any sales of clothing was put towards the trek. We also had major sponsors like, I'm trying to remember all of them. Before You Speak Coffee, I don't know if your boys seen them on Instagram. We had G-Shock Australia sent us out watches.
Oh shit, it's crazy.
Yeah, we had a bunch of
cool.
sponsors. Yeah, Outer Edgewear, they sponsored us with a few clothing. XTM clothing. So yeah, we had a bunch of sponsors help us out as well. Where was I getting with this point? I just had a blind blank.
Yeah, I've had one too.
That's all right.
Shit happens, eh?
Yeah. I like watching, because me and Evan, we've been watching the videos of Scotty and obviously all that. And I like watching those inspirational videos, but Scotty's one, it kind of hits you. You're kind of like, this is crazy.
I think Bailey's talking about the one where Scotty explains how he...
Yeah, it's like a 5-minute clip. We'll link it in the thing so people can watch it, yeah.
It's pretty emotional. It's like...
Yeah, like...
He's kind of not that emotional in it, but he's just... The way he's so calm and tells his story, he's sort of like, fuck, like... I don't know, it just feels like that could happen to anyone. It's like he's just your mate, sort of. And then it's... I feel like because he's so calm in his approach, it hits home more, that it's just happens to... It could happen to anyone, and what he's achieved is just insane. Like the first person to ever do it.
Yeah, with minimal assistance. Like I did hear a story of another paraplegic do the trek, but they did it on the back of a yak.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, obviously with Scott, it was with minimal assistance, so he actually, he was on his literally arms.
When he was on his arms, was it just Matt carrying, or was it kind of...
Yeah, so Matt did most of the work. Obviously when Matt got fatigued and Scotty got fatigued, Darwa would substitute in. And then I think even a few of the local boys, the porters that were with us, they helped us out a few times as well. Obviously there were sections, to give you guys an idea, there were sections in the trek that were like literally like this, like just sheer, not even rock, just dirt. Obviously those sections, Scott was carried on the back purely for safety.
Yeah.
Obviously we didn't want to put Scott's life in any risk whatsoever. And it was even sketchy for, myself carrying, all my camera equipment and I'm doing this, fucking hill like that. But yeah, there was a number of sketchy sections like that. Now I remember there's another section where you'd walk on probably no wider than 20 centimetre length of track, and it's just a drop to the other side. So yeah, you got to have your wits about you and have the end in goal and not think about the present.
Yep.
It's another one of those things though, like as challenging as it would have been, I reckon just with all the boys, and then like when you finally get there, you're kind of like, fuck yeah, we did it. You feel that?
The sense of relief was,
it
was almost like, like we did this sort of thing. And then, same thing, obviously, we weren't just the only ones on the trek. There were a bunch of other people at base camp when we were there. And what we sort of did, obviously, we wanted to get a shot of Scotty, like getting up to base camp and like hitting the rock, and you obviously see it in the
watch that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you just hear everyone just clapping and cheering and whatnot. So I ran ahead. I ran ahead, and Nigel stayed back, just to. Yeah, so I sort of had like my little moment at base camp. Yeah, I did it, and then I was like, "Oh shit, I've got to get the shot. I can't repeat this. I can't tell Scott to go back down. Take two. Couldn't do that to him. The sense of relief and the sense of accomplishment, was amazing when we got up to base camp.
With the documentary, obviously you shot with Nigel. What's going on? When are we going to get to see it?
Hopefully soon. It's in the final stages of post-production now, so it should be released to the general public soon. I'm not too sure on what platform it would be on, if it's on Netflix or if it's on like YouTube or I can't unfortunately tell you at the moment. But once it is out there, I'll obviously flick it to you boys, and let you boys have a look at it. Because I want to get it out there, just to tell Scott's story.
Yeah. Even the clip, because you sent us those small clips, so we sort of had an idea of what you did. I was just getting goosebumps watching those. Like
the 5-minute teaser.
They're so well shot. Like. And it's just, I don't know, I was getting chills. The music, he's used that real good music with the sort of, I don't know how to describe the music, but I don't know, it just gives me chills.
Yeah,
it was so
traditional
good.
music.
Yeah, that's what. So, no, that was insane.
Yeah, not actually, props to Nigel for cutting that. I didn't have any, obviously I did have a say in that edit, but literally when we got back into, it wasn't even Kathmandu. I think he cut that when we were in Pokhara. We got back into Kathmandu. We spent a few days there, but obviously since we completed the trek so quickly, we had a few days up our sleeves, so we just went to Pokhara.
Yeah.
And just had, I think it was about 4 days of R&R there. Literally, we'd just like sleep in, we'd get up, go for a wander, just literally just zen out and just relax and just, take the scenery in. But that's when Nigel cut that little video up, and obviously we sent that to news agencies and whatnot. And I think the SBS got hold of it here locally and uploaded to Facebook and got, I think, 500,000 views, 600,000. Yeah, so SBS obviously got it. And again, when we got back down from the mountain, got all back together, also we had a bunch of news agencies lined up to conduct interviews. So there was about 2 days of interviews for Matt and Scott, and obviously Nigel and I got like BTS behind the scenes and shots for the documentary. That's obviously when we got a chance to again look through all the footage and see what we've got. Okay, do we need this? Do we need that? Sort of thing. Again, all props to Nigel for that little edit to get out to all the news agencies and
Did the documentary shooting, did it start beforehand? So you filmed him training, or was it?
Oh yeah. So what I came into the picture probably 3 months into the preparation sort of thing. Yep. So Nigel already had a bunch of footage of Matt and Scotty training with obviously their Instagram collateral.
Yeah.
They already had a bunch of that footage. I did actually drive down to the Blue Mountains for 2 days. Yeah, drove the 13 hours down, shot for a day with them up in the Blue Mountains getting training footage and whatnot, and then drove back. Nigel shot most of that. And Barter actually as well did a bit of that footage. And then, my input was obviously in the trek and then a little bit afterwards. So all in all, it's probably footage-wise and timeline-wise, it was probably over 6 to 7 months of, shooting. And obviously not all of that gets cut into the documentary.
Yeah.
How long do you think the documentary will end up being? Do you have an idea now? Or?
I think it's about an hour 10, hour 20.
Yeah.
Which is a good length.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's not too long. And I mean, for what the footage that we've had and had access to, it tells Scotty's story enough just to paint the picture. Obviously, we couldn't get the nitty-gritty details of like the accident and anything like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had to either recreate some of those accident shots to obviously help tell the story, or we just purchased stock footage.
Yeah.
Again, to help the story. Anything other than that was all shot by us.
Yep.
All the interviews, all the training, also the trek, and post-trek. It was all done by myself or one of the other boys.
Yeah. Just stripping it back, when you said Scotty got taken out by a helicopter, what happens when you get to the top? Like, do you have to walk back? You said you had to walk back down?
Yes. Yeah. So out of the 13, 14 of us or however many, it was only myself, Dawa, Nigel, and I think we only had 2 porters left with us, two or three left to come back down the mountain. So, everyone else got airlifted out, and then, we had to...
And how long does that take?
3 days. So, 7 days to go up.
Just turn
7
around.
to 8 days. Yeah.
Pumped it down.
Yeah. And again, because your body was conditioned to working at that that altitude. So, we were literally running down the mountain.
Yeah.
Well, figuratively.
Yeah.
So you just go straight down what you come back, like the way up? You just go straight back down?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. The exact same way that you came up, you came back down. So that gave Nigel and I the second chance to get like little detail shots.
More content,
Yeah, some more content, exactly. Sound bites as well. I don't know if you want to cut this in, but we got the drone up. You're not allowed to take drones in there.
It's staying in.
Managed to get the drone in there. We smuggled that in. Yeah.
Why you only had drones up there?
That's a bloody good question. All I knew is you weren't allowed them, but we got it in. There's some reason I can't remember why. And for good reason, but we're trying to tell a story and we're filmmakers, and rules are bent and broken, so it is what it is.
Fair enough.
Come at me, Nepal government. No, just kidding. Yeah, so 3 days to come back down. And again, similar to the base camp day, I had another. I had another bout of sickness coming back down. So the last few days I wasn't eating at all. The last day when we got back into Luke, I literally went into bed and just slept. I was just physically exhausted. Luckily we had internet at Luke, because then I sent Nigel and Dara a message saying, "Oh, where are you boys at?" They were at just down the road in the pub, playing pool with a few other locals. So it was 3 days to come back down.
We're just on a high the whole way down, just thinking about what you had just done.
Yeah,
I feel like I would have been like that.
Yeah, a little bit of a high, and just sort of like taking it all in, while still having fun at the same time. And I think I actually posted to my Instagram when we were coming back down. We were on one of the suspension bridges, and I don't know why I remember this, but I do remember this for some fucked up reason. I was listening to the Chainsmokers' "It Won't Kill Us," and here I am in the middle of suspension bridge, like breaking out into a song and dance, and like by the end of it, like I was like, why did I do that? But it was fun. YOLO. We were on a high, and obviously Nigel and Dara and I were, again, still bantering along the way down. Because, again, sometimes it's hard. In some of the sections, it was actually harder to go down, down than to come up. And I think, I only slipped over once, and that was coming down, and I ate shit pretty hard, to say the least. I was walking down this super sketchy section just after Namche Bazaar, which is one of the major villages on the trek up. Yeah. And, getting up to it, you're, like, zigzagging, crossing your way up the ridgeline, and, obviously coming back down, I just took the wrong step and just went... and just like slid down probably about 5 to 10 meters on my ass. I was like, oh, luckily I got some good glits on me.
How'd the camera gear fare?
Thankfully I just had it just around my neck, and it just sort of like went into my lap. Or did I have it in my bag then? No, actually, sorry, I take that back. I think at that part of the trek I had it in my backpack because I knew I was going down this section. But for the better part, and actually speaking of camera gear, I did a lot of preparation prior to as to what sort of gear do I take. Because at that altitude, obviously there's a lack of oxygen. So conventional spinning mechanical hard drives don't work as well, and sometimes they actually fail. So we had to take SSD drives. The cold actually severely diminishes your battery life. So sort of my system was I had a battery in the camera, and then I had another one actually pretty close to my body to keep it warm, and then I just like rotate it through because I remember one stage I turned my camera on and I had like 2% battery, and I was like, okay, I'd do the swap over and pop that 2% battery in against my body to keep it warm, and then later on put it back in, and then it was up at 70%. So the cold and the altitude.
So weird.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, it's something to do with the technology and the batteries, and the cold just diminishes their performance. I had to do a lot of research and like thinking as to, okay, what sort of gear do I need to take? Obviously, I couldn't take everything, so it's like, what is the like mission critical sort of gear to get this job done? Between Nigel and I, we had 3 cameras for the whole trek, and very basic equipment. No, not like by basic equipment, I mean the bare essentials to get the job done.
Random question, but I was just thinking, is the stars in the sky at night on Everest just absolutely insane?
Oh, fucking amazing! Because there's no light pollution, so it's not like in the city here. At night you look up and you can't see anything. Over there, and I'll show you boys on my phone here. One night on the way up, Nigel and I got up at like something stupid o'clock, and got up and got this shot.
That's crazy, eh? It looks like a wallpaper on your iPhone.
Yeah,
it comes with the thing.
Yeah.
Chelsea.
That's so insane. Can you like show that to the camera?
Yeah. So I don't know how well the camera will pick. I'm very hesitant to post this up on Instagram because I absolutely love it and I know it's going to be ripped by.
Someone will steal
Yeah,
that.
someone will steal that. So
Just put like a little watermark over it. So.
Well, man, I
But then
know
it ruins the
firsthand.
photo.
Yeah, I know firsthand how easy it is to get rid of. So yeah, the stars are absolutely amazing. And it's the same thing if you go out west here. Like
Yeah.
even 3 to 4 hours, you can see the Milky Way, with your own bare eye without any telescope.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing over there because obviously, no, there was hardly any power up on the mountains, so it was just pitch black.
Yeah.
The first few days, actually, come to think of it, we did have a full moon, so we didn't get a chance to get any like astro shots like that. But yeah, that shot was taken about halfway up,
Yeah.
and that's when the moon sort of like went. I think it was behind a mountain by that stage of the night. I can't quite remember. But yeah, managed to get that shot. Nigel tried to get a few shots as well, but he was crook. So he just went back into bed, and I was like, okay, I'll just keep shooting at like 2:30 in the morning, just walking around town,
Yeah.
camera in hand.
Fun fact for you.
Mm-hmm.
Off topic again, but we on the video you sent us on the Apex Gen website. Scott mentioned he's from Barraville. Barraville is not far from Kempsey.
Yeah, small world.
Yeah,
Did you know that? I was should have mentioned it to you
No.
at work, but
I don't really know much.
It's like
geography,
like an hour drive?
yeah, probably not even that.
Yeah. When we were young, we've actually versed his cousins in like footy.
Really?
Yeah, it's a small world, man. Yeah, and like when Evan said Scott Doolan, and I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. Like it didn't surprise me at all. Like that family, like they're so like they're like a really competitive. Like they're just good at what they do.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you know any of the cousins. You probably wouldn't. Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately not. Just know Scotty.
Yeah.
Himself. I did meet his parents at the airport. But yeah, unfortunately don't know the rest of his family.
It was so funny, like because I spoke to you and you told me the story, and then I didn't know like that Bailey knew like Scott Doolan's cousins or whatever.
I know of them.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
knows
know
of them.
personally.
Yeah, versed him in footy or whatever. And then I told Bailey, and Bailey's like, I know him, and I was like, it just wigged me out how everything just loops back around, and it's just such a small world.
It is. Everyone knows everyone. Very scarily,
yeah. So
especially on the Gold Coast.
Yeah. What's next
For me?
for you? Yeah.
Or Team Apex
You've
Gen?
already got
I know.
Everest. You've done Everest. It's like,
Yeah,
what?
it's pretty hard to beat that.
When someone's like, oh, let's do this. You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I do. I would like to do the trek again. Yeah, yeah. Only because like obviously you've got the main trek going up to obviously base camp and then the summit, but there's actually a number of like side treks that you can do. So we were trying to get to Mount Kalapatar, which is right at the top of the trekking route, and Kalapatar is one of the only vantage points where you can actually see base camp and then the summit of Everest pretty much in like one view or one photo. Because when you're at base camp, you can't actually see the summit of Everest because it's just blocked by the other mountains and ridges.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just see all the rock and then the Guma ice glacier, which unfortunately has taken a number of climbers' lives, and that's only like 200 meters out of base camp. So you can see all that, but yeah, you can't see the summit. So that we were wanting to get up to Kalapatar, but obviously our end goal was to get to base camp.
Yeah.
And that would have just been a cherry on top. But unfortunately with Scott having the chest infection and then Justin as well, like Justin started to get signs of that chest infection probably halfway through, but he just pushed through.
Yeah.
Like you know how you get those people that have a real deep chesty cough?
Yeah.
That's what he had. And it just wasn't nice to hear.
Yeah.
And like he was, struggling and pushing himself because it was his goal as well to get to base camp. So yeah, I definitely would want to go back there. And also just to take everything in again for the second time, because obviously I was there and my mindset was, okay, I need to shoot a documentary.
Yeah, that's right.
I wasn't there to, holiday and like obviously I did enjoy myself, but my mindset was I got to do this job.
Yeah.
So that's where I was at. So yeah, definitely would do the trek again and do Mount Kalabatar, potentially even starting lower down the mountain, because again, like I explained, you can fly into Lukla to start your trek, or you can actually start a little bit lower in the mountain. I think at about 500 or 600 meters in altitude. You literally just drive up to the village, and that village is actually where all our porters were from that we hired to help us get all our gear up. So that's their home village, and then they just come up to Lukla and meet the trekkers, and then climb up to base camp or their end destination, and then come back down and rinse and repeat. Yeah. So sometimes these porters are doing maybe 4 to 5, maybe 8, 9, depends how long treks in one season. Yeah, because obviously there's a season in which you can do the trek up to base camp and then obviously summit.
Yep. So you don't have any other crazy plans?
Not at the moment.
What about Scott and Apex Gen Team?
So Scott and Apex, they are looking at doing the next biggest mountain in the world.
Is that in Nepal as well?
No. That's actually in Kilimanjaro.
Oh.
Kilimanjaro. So Africa.
Yeah.
They were meant to. I'm not too sure if I'm meant to be saying that, but fuck it. They were meant to be doing it this year.
Yeah.
But, just planning and scheduling hasn't allowed them to. But Matt and Scotty want to do it again together, but they want to bring someone else along. And I think they're just trying to find that right someone to do
so
the trip.
Another person to help Scotty, or
another Scotty.
Another Scotty.
Oh, really?
Good luck finding another Scotty.
Yeah. Well, someone like
I'm sure there will be.
Yeah. Not exactly like by that. I mean, like someone else who's got something that's
to overcome.
Yeah. Something that's stopping them, and they want to overcome it and rise above it and achieve.
Are you getting the call up for the documentary again?
I did get the call.
Oh. Did ya?
Yeah, I did get the call. I am keen, but it just depends on schedules and whatnot, and obviously work now. I'm back to a full-time basis, whereas before it was all freelance, so I had the the time to do it. But if I do get that call again, or the definite, okay, this is where we're thinking of doing it, I obviously have to keep it in mind. But we'll just see what happens.
Exciting times ahead.
Yes.
So
it's not pretty much they want to be doing these what they call Apex adventures, almost yearly or bi-yearly. Again, to just put back into the community of what their message is and what they're trying to achieve.
Insane. It's one hell of a story.
Yeah.
I think on that note we could probably wrap this thing up.
Yeah. Really appreciate you coming on.
That's right. Hope I've answered everything.
Yeah, no.
That was so much more than we sort of anticipated.
Yeah.
And like we said before, when you're like, we just climbed it.
Yeah.
But obviously super thankful for you coming on. And I mean, Bailey obviously don't know Matt and Scotty and everyone else, but
it's pretty crazy what you did
for creating such an insane story, and you for sharing their story.
Pleasure.
And I guess whenever it's released, you'll let us know, and we'll let our loyal fans know.
Yeah. I think your loyal fans love it. Probably got more fans than me, let's be honest. Also, once it gets out there, because obviously the traction that the boys got prior to the trek, like they were on national breakfast shows beforehand. So once the doco does get dropped, it would be out there.
Yeah, there'll be another mass media run.
Yeah. And the following that Apex Gen has got obviously within their community, and Matt is heavily into social media. So once it's out there,
they've got a mass following.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah. Go and follow Scotty too. His Instagram is...
Scott.
Yeah, his Instagram. He's a boss, man.
Yeah.
What's his? I don't know where it was on Instagram.
Wheelie Fit, I think it is. At Wheelie.
And I think it's in the video you sent me. He's just climbing those ropes with the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he just wraps it around the wheelchair. And he's like,
So at Wheelie Fit, that's WHEELY Fit.
For your daily dose of inspiration.
Yeah, for your daily dose of muscles on muscles. I'm just looking through his feed now. He's an absolute unit.
And obviously follow Stevo
Yeah.
for some.
Yeah.
You share all your well, not all of it. You share some of your like videography and photography on
Yeah.
Instagram.
I'm pretty weak at my Insta game, let's be honest.
Up
But
it.
huh?
Time to up it.
Yeah,
Up it.
time to up it.
Get
Like
it
I
out,
got
eh?
a stack of content sitting on my hard drives. It's just a matter of sitting down and scheduling and editing and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Steven Grevis. And you can find Matt and Apex Gen. So Apex Gen, I think it's just Apex Gen or Apex Gen Lifestyle off the top of my head. Let me just confirm this before I give you the wrong information.
We'll chuck it all in them.
Yeah,
Info
well-
anyways.
Link in bio.
Yeah.
Yeah, Apex Gen. So just straight Apex Gen, and then Maddie's Matt Laycock, I believe. Yeah, Matt_Laycock. Again, everything will be down in the description.
Yeah.
Cool.
One hell of a story.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thanks again, man.
Touch your button. Sorry.
That's all right.
We're gonna get some pics.
Let's
Pics.
do it.
Yeah.
That's it. Thanks everyone for watching,
Yeah, cheers.
listening, whatever you're doing.
I hope some people listen to this one. 'Cause
This
it's really good.
Like,
Pretty remarkable story too.
yeah. And if Scotty ever wants to
Hopefully.
come on and talk,
Yeah.
love to hear Scotty.
he has actually been up on the coast a number of times, so I mean we could probably tee something up.
Yeah, fuck, we'd be so keen for that.
Yeah. Sweet. Let's do it.
Let's get some pics.
Thanks everyone.
Sweet.